At 14, he was forced to live with a fake identity because his real identity could have killed him. George Soros survived Nazi-occupied Hungary by hiding his Jewish identity. Years later, the same man brought the Bank of England to its knees and made the biggest speculative gain in history in a single day. This story is proof of how trauma can transform into power, and how even the darkest experiences can form the foundation of the greatest successes. Soros's strategies are not just about finance, they're about life itself. George Soros's story is a journey that begins in one of humanity's darkest periods and reaches the brightest peaks of global finance. He is not just an investor, but also a survival expert, philosopher, and world changer. When you see George Soros today, he's known for his $32 billion fortune, global political influence, and philanthropic activities. But behind this power lies the story of a child who faced death at a very young age and had to hide his identity. Soros's greatest lesson is this: your greatest weaknesses, when properly channeled, can become your greatest strengths. His Holocaust trauma gave him empathy. His survival instinct gave him courage to take risks. And his experience living under uncertainty gave him the ability to understand the soul of markets. So, how did this man escape Nazi camps? How did he start from scratch in London and become a billionaire? And most importantly, how did he bring England to economic crisis in 1992? This story isn't just about financial success. It's about the power of human spirit, the transformative effect of trauma, and what it means to never give up. Georg Schwartz, who would later become George Soros, was born on August 12, 1930 in Budapest. His family was a middle-class Jewish family. His father, Tivadar Schwartz, was a lawyer, and his mother, Elizabeth, was a housewife. Tivadar Schwartz was an extraordinary man. He had been held in a prisoner camp in Russia during World War I, and this experience taught him the rules of survival. Tivadar gave his son Georg very important lessons at an early age. In difficult times, you may need to change your identity, but you must never lose your character. Budapest in the 1930s allowed Georg to have a relatively normal childhood. He was an intelligent child, loved school, and was particularly talented in mathematics and philosophy. But storm clouds were gathering in Europe. Hitler's rise threatened all European Jews, and Hungary was not exempt from this threat. The final years of Georg's childhood were spent with his family's increasing anxieties. Anti-Jewish laws were beginning to be enacted, and Georg could feel that he was being treated differently, even at school. The year 1944 would be the breaking point of Georg's life. In March 1944, the Germans occupied Hungary. This event completely changed Georgi's life. Overnight, a 14-year-old child had to fight for his life. Tivadar Schwartz was making clever plans to save his son's life. He had fake identity documents prepared for Georgi and placed him with a Christian man named Keresztes Baumbach. Georgi was no longer Georgi Schwartz. He had become Keresztes Sándor, a relative of his fake godfather. This identity change wasn't just on paper. Georgi had to embrace his new personality and completely hide his Jewish identity. This period was both terrifying and instructive for Georgi. He knew he could be caught and killed at any moment, but at the same time he was learning how to stay calm, how to act like someone else, and most importantly, how to live with uncertainty. One day, Keresztes Baumbach took Georgi with him to the confiscation of Jewish properties. Georgi witnessed the theft of his own people's belongings. This event was traumatic for him, but it also taught him an important lesson. The world is an unjust place, and the powerful win. This experience shaped Georgi's worldview. Instead of becoming a victim, he learned to understand the system and play according to it. When the war ended, Georgi Schwartz had managed to survive, but this was only a physical escape. Psychologically, what he had experienced had deeply affected him. In 1947, Georgi decided to go to London. His goal was to study at the London School of Economics. This decision became the second major turning point of his life. In London, Georgi lived in quite difficult conditions. He had no money, had to work, and sometimes couldn't find food. But at the same time, it was a period when he was intellectually very nourished. At LSE, Georgi became a student of philosophy professor Karl Popper. Popper's theory of open society and the concept of falsifiability fundamentally influenced Georgi's thinking system. The most important lesson he learned from Popper was this: no theory is perfect, and there's always a possibility of being wrong. This approach would later form the foundation of Soros's investment philosophy. During this period, Georgi changed his name to George Soros. The word Soros means future in Hungarian. This reflected his desire to escape his past and focus on the future. In 1953, George Soros graduated from LSE but had difficulty finding a job. He was thinking of pursuing an academic career, but his financial needs pushed him into the financial world. His first job was at a small merchant bank called Singer and Friedlander. This job became Soros's gateway into the finance world. Initially, Soros was doing arbitrage transactions, trying to profit from price differences between different markets. This work developed his analytical intelligence and risk-taking ability. In 1956, Soros moved to FM Mayer. Here he worked as a European securities specialist. During this period, he began to understand the connections between different country markets. In 1959, Soros took the big step and immigrated to America. He started working at Wertheim & Co. in New York. This decision was the beginning of his career in the global finance world. In America, Soros rose quickly, using his expertise in European securities. He wasn't just doing financial analysis, he was also studying market psychology. In the 1960s, Soros began developing his unique investment philosophy. This philosophy was based on the theory of reflexivity. Traditional economic theory argues that markets are rational and prices reflect true value. But Soros thought differently. According to Soros, investors' perceptions affect reality, and this effect changes perceptions again. This cyclical process causes major fluctuations in markets. For example, the perception that a stock will rise actually makes that stock rise. This rise strengthens the perception and causes more rise, until the bubble bursts. This theory formed the foundation of Soros's investment strategy. He tried to predict the formation and bursting of bubbles by reading market emotions. Soros's Holocaust experience played an important role in developing this theory. Because he had learned at a very young age how perceptions could change reality, Nazi propaganda had changed the perception of millions of people and created a terrible reality. In 1969, Soros founded Quantum Fund together with Jim Rogers. This fund became the platform where Soros would show his investment genius to the world. The fund's name was inspired by Werner Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. This reflected Soros's belief that markets are uncertain and unpredictable. In the early years, the fund was small, but Soros's strategies quickly began to yield results. He was using global macro strategies, taking large positions between currencies, commodities, and stocks. Throughout the 1970s, Quantum Fund achieved annual average returns of over 30%. This performance made Soros one of Wall Street's most respected names. The secret of Soros's success wasn't just mathematics. He analyzed markets using his knowledge of psychology, history, and philosophy. 1992 was the pinnacle of George Soros's career. The transaction he executed that year made him go down in history as the man who broke the Bank of England. Here's how it happened. Britain was a member of the European Exchange Rate Mechanism, ERM, and had to keep the British pound within a certain exchange rate band. But Soros thought this rate was unsustainable. The British economy was weak, inflation was high, and interest rates were lower than Germany's. Soros predicted that the British government would eventually be forced to devalue the pound. On the morning of September 16, 1992, Soros took action. He sold £10 billion worth of sterling, the largest speculative position ever taken by an individual in history. The British government raised interest rates from 10% to 12%, then to 15% to support sterling. But nothing worked. The market, led by Soros, was attacking sterling. In the evening hours, the British government gave up and announced that sterling would exit the ERM. This decision cost the British people billions of pounds. Soros, however, made approximately $1 billion that day. This event earned him the title, the man who broke the Bank of England. Black Wednesday was a historic event, not only for Soros but for global finance as well. This event showed that even individual investors could succeed against central banks. The $1 billion Soros earned was an astronomical figure for that time. But more importantly, this event proved he was a global power. This event caused great controversy in Britain. Some criticized Soros as a speculator, while others argued that he was just using market mechanisms. Soros himself interpreted this event as follows: when governments implement wrong policies, markets correct them. I was just the representative of this correction. This event also showed Soros's philosophical approach. According to him, the world wasn't perfect, and systems could be wrong. In this case, it was necessary to show and correct these mistakes. Starting in 1979, Soros began spending his earned money for social purposes. He founded open society foundations to support the concept of open society. This concept came from his teacher, Karl Popper. Open society was a society that supported free thought, democracy, and human rights. Soros started his first philanthropic work in Eastern Europe. In the 1980s, he financed education programs in Hungary, Poland, and other communist countries. After the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, Soros accelerated his activities. He helped develop democracy and free market economy in former communist countries. To date, Soros has dedicated a large portion of his $32 billion fortune to philanthropic activities. This is one of the largest personal donations in history. George Soros is not just an investor, but also a thinker. His worldview was shaped by the traumas he experienced at a young age. According to Soros, the world is not perfect, and systems can be wrong. In this case, it's everyone's duty to try to correct these mistakes. He fights against authoritarianism because he learned at a very young age what totalitarian regimes could lead to. Soros's investment philosophy also reflects the same principle. Markets can be wrong, and those who recognize these mistakes win. George Soros has received many criticisms throughout his career. Some see him as a speculator and claim he is the creator of financial crises. During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, Soros was criticized for taking a position against the Thai baht. Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad described him as an economic war criminal. Soros responds to these criticisms as follows: I use market mechanisms. If governments implement wrong policies, the price must be paid. Soros is also criticized for his political views. His liberal democracy advocacy activities are not well received by some conservative circles. Soros's influence extends far beyond his personal trades. He fundamentally changed how the world thinks about currency speculation and global macro investing. His success showed that investors could challenge sovereign governments, currency pegs could be broken by market forces, Global capital flows could overwhelm national policies. Information asymmetries could create massive profit opportunities. The Soros trade became a template studied by hedge funds worldwide. His approach of combining fundamental analysis with market psychology became the gold standard for macro investing. Soros's career offers several profound lessons for investors and life in general. Embrace uncertainty. Instead of fearing the unknown, Soros learned to profit from it. Question conventional wisdom. His greatest profits came from betting against popular beliefs. Understand psychology. Markets are driven by human emotions, not just mathematical models. Take calculated risks. Big wins require big bets, but only when the odds are favorable. Learn from failure. Soros's losses taught him as much as his wins. George Soros's legacy is multidimensional. He is not just a successful investor, but also a world-changing philanthropist. In the financial field, Soros became a pioneer of global macro strategies. His reflexivity theory contributed to the development of behavioral finance. In the philanthropic field, his Open Society Foundation supports democracy and human rights work worldwide. Most importantly, Soros's story gives hope. He shows that the darkest situations can be overcome, and traumas can be transformed into power. After listening to George Soros's story, ask yourself these questions. What traumas from my past could strengthen me? What difficulties have given me unique perspectives? How can my greatest disadvantage become an advantage? Because the transformation Soros experienced isn't just his story. This is proof of the power of human spirit and the transformative effect of trauma. He lived a journey from Holocaust to Wall Street, from hiding identity to influencing the world. Take action today. Turn your past pains into today's strengths. Adopt Soros's strategy. See the flaws in systems and position yourself accordingly. Remember, Soros escaped death at 14, defeated the Bank of England at 62. Age is just a number. The past is just experience. What matters is how you think and act today. Now get up and start creating your own Black Wednesday moment. Because inside each of you is a strategic genius waiting to be discovered. Remember, the greatest traumas, when processed correctly, transform into the greatest strengths. George Soros proved this. Now it's your turn. As Soros taught, the world isn't perfect, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to change it. Now get up and start changing the world. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because as Rise Stories, we will continue to bring you many more real stories of people who turned trauma into power, changed systems, and influenced the world.